Another week has gone by. Welcome to episode 59, Rural Property Market in WA, Prices, Seasons and Demand. Looking forward to tonight's show. Got lots of good things to discuss, and even got a guest, we've got rid of our gun shyness. We've been concerned about their audio and whatever in recent weeks, but we've got that sorted, so we're pretty comfortable. And looking forward to our guest tonight, Chad Smith, which will be, been talking to Chatty for a bit now, been trying to get him on board, and good to have him, so that will be part of the show. Tonight, well, of course, we'll get into OD's stats, and of course, it's interesting with regard to the lockdown in Perth. What has that done to the market? So it'll be some interesting information, I'm sure, that Oscar's got there. And interest rates, the Reserve Bank made an announcement today, so we might have a little chat about that and see where that's heading. And of course, as I said, our guest tonight, Chad Smith, who's from Nutrien Harcourts, and looking forward to having a chat to Chad, not only his involvement in real estate, but he's got a good story to tell, and a good fella. I have a bit to do with Chad, and been looking forward to having a chat with him. So looking forward to that, and his homestay business, of course. And also, we want to make mention, we keep on saying for some episodes now, we want to keep everybody aware and conscious of the fact that although Cyclone Seroja was some weeks ago, it is still an issue for a lot of people, and who better to talk to than Chad, who's experienced it firsthand. I've got some photos that Chaddy's been kind enough to send through to me that we'll put up on the screen tonight, and it will blow your mind, and that's just him. So, and he's not trying to be a hero about it, he's not seeking sympathy, it's just the fact that what a great opportunity to have a chat to him and being aware of what's going on around the community. So we're doing that. How the seasons can impact on property and the farming property in particular, but not only do the seasons impact on farming property, but we know firsthand it also has an impact on good seasons, mean the farmers come out and looking at investment properties and buying property, not just farming property. So we'll have a chat about that. We'll discuss the property market, as I said, with more particularly in the rural sector. The cyclone issue I've already mentioned. We've got some questions, a couple of questions being sent through today, so we will discover the answers, as we say, in our Discover the Answers segment, what the papers are saying. And interestingly, you would have seen a post, perhaps, that Oscar posted recently, yesterday, I think it was, about stamp duty. That's come up to the fore again, and Damien Collins, the president of REWA, has having a say about that, so that's good. Some general chit-chat about a few things, and of course, always, the boys aren't aware of this, but I've got a little if question today, and there's no right or wrong, but we're looking forward to that. Boys, welcome. Oscar, welcome, mate. How's your week? Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, TV. Mate, it's been an all right week. To be honest with you, I've been feeling a bit flat because, as I mentioned to you, my wife and my little girls have gone down south for the school holidays. In particular, the weather has just been rainy, dark, just a bit of a pain in the butt. But that's probably the extent of my little whinge. When I do, though, what I find very useful is things around me that help me put things in perspective. And you just showed me some of the photos of Chatty's property after Cyclone Seroja had been through. And when I'm having a bit of a whinge because my family's not around or work's been a bit hard because of the last couple of days, I sit there and think, far out, mate, pull your head in. What have you got to worry about when you have a look at what Chatty's been through over the last few months? So those perspective things are really, really good to keep you focused, I guess, and to stay focused on what's important. Other than that, I can't wait to get into tonight's show and hear lots from Chatty about his experience on the farm, but also in rural real estate as well. And
before we do get to your stats, so we'll introduce Chad. Chad, welcome, mate, but I'll just give you a quick intro. So Chad's he's the second of 4 children in his family. His dad was a Mora boy and mum is from Beacon, farming family. So there's a bit of a background there. And his mum is now, we should speak to mum later on, she's now the owner and principal of Drakesbrook Professionals Real Estate. Where's Drakesbrook, Chad?
Warina.
Okay. Righto. So there's went to Kearney College, been doing for 3 years ag school, went to Kent Street and did aeronautics. Yep, and attained his solo flight in a fixed wing, so that was good. His goal was to be a chopper pilot, but he ended up got selected to go to Nutrien. Didn't quite see that out and left the army to be a ringer in the Pilbara. So some people go, what's a ringer? We'll get Teddy to tell you what a ringer is in a minute. And he then ended up gold mining underground in Meekatharra until There was a safety issue there, so he got out of that, went back to the horses and the cows, and then down the track he got approached by a mate to be a stock agent, and so he teamed up with Craig Walker, and they did that for a bit. He's also put his hand up in 2010 as the Rural Ambassador competition run by the Ag Society and won the WA title, and he then did a speech in Adelaide, of which he came third, and this speech was about the importance of livestock export or live export to the WA farm economy. And unfortunately, as we all know, that's in 2011, live export was then was suspended from Australia. So obviously, no shortage of Chad's clients got smashed, as they say, when it comes to that. And then, of course, with all that happening, Mum then suggested, hey, listen, why don't you get involved in real estate? So he added that to his livestock side of things, and now it's been some 9 years, and I've had a lot to do with Chad in a professional sense. And I'd like to think we've built up a pretty good rapport, to be honest. We get on the phone and don't stop talking. That's surprising to you, Oscar. And then he's got 2 boys. And you may have seen, in fact, the West Australian 2 or 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, where Chad and his wife Amy and his 2 little boys were with Josh Kennedy, when Josh, being a Northampton boy himself, went up to there and lifted the spirits a bit and saw all the things. So they were in the West Australian. They were featured in the West Australian with Josh's visit. So, and Chad's very much involved in the, as is often the case when you live in small communities. He coaches the boys under 12s. He's the president of the Northampton Junior Footy, and he's a director of the Northampton Community Centre. So doesn't do much around the place. He's pretty quiet for life, really. Chad, welcome, mate. Good to have you on board.
Boring old life.
Super impressive resume,
yeah. Good to have you on board,
Thanks,
mate.
TV, ID.
Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you.
So how is the world?
No, it's good to be here, finally.
Yeah. How is the world, mate?
Busy at the moment.
Yep.
Yeah, no, busy, TV. Been flat out. Real estate's been good. Livestock in the northern areas is just kicking off for me, and home life's hectic after the cyclone. So
yeah, we'll cover that with you down the track as far as that's concerned, and your boys. So I know I've talked to you about the footy team. You've got some little stars in your team, haven't you? You're under 12s.
Yep. We've got big Harry Taylor Harry does my board for me on game day, Harry Taylor, and I've got his little fella James in there. Got a couple of other little fellas, Joy Deavine, and there's a selection of little guns there. Hopefully that'll make it one day into the lights.
Yep. And they look up to that stuff, don't they?
Yep.
They look up to the big boys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's how lucky are we to have guys that come back to the club that have reached the highest level of AFL. You know, they're just our kids walk around and go, "This is normal," but you know, we're blessed to have them around the club and giving us inspiration. So it's great.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is that they are so down to earth and so earthy, aren't they? Yeah, they're so level-headed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they'll come back and give us. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. Hey, listen. Without we'll get onto that shortly. We'll just obviously start off OD with regard to. I think we should do OD stats first up, as we normally do. And there's some interesting little points of view that you've got with regard to those.
Yeah, well, just quickly, TV, and I really want to get onto a lot more stuff of what.
Sorry, TV.
Keep going, mate.
Yeah, I just want to get on to Chatty because there's just so much good stuff there to unlock. But very quickly, in terms of the Perth real estate stats, what I thought I would see over the course of this week with the lockdown that Perth had is that I'd actually see quite a significant change in the volume of transactions. But I'm absolutely flabbergasted. This Perth market is hugely resilient. Pretty much exactly the same number of sales as we had the previous week and the week before that as well. So, again, in the last 7 days, 932 sales in Perth. Normally, and when I say normally, all year we've been seeing anywhere from 850 up to 1,000 sales. So, again, even with a Perth lockdown, 932 sales in Perth. 12 months ago, it was 1,225, which is it's a drop of around about 17 or 18% from where we were at 12 months ago. But 12 months ago, we had really come out of lockdown, and it was absolutely crazy then. So still a very, very consistent amount of sales activity. It's a bit different from what the real estate agents are telling me, though. They've certainly noticed a bit of a slowdown, I guess, or just that sting that we talk about has been taken out of the market. But the stats are basically telling us otherwise. In terms of listings, a little bit of a tightening up of the listing stock. We're at around about 8,500 listings at the moment. 4 weeks ago, we had 9,054 listings, so it's a drop of about 6.3% from where we were at 4 weeks ago. And in terms of 12 months ago, it was 10,407 listings through the Perth metropolitan area. So it's a drop of about 18.5% in listing stock from where we were at 12 months ago. So none of that really is surprising. The bit that is surprising for me, though, TV, is the fact that we've still got a very consistent volume of sales. Rentals, that did take a hit over the course of our lockdown week, down to 566 rental properties that got rented over the course of 7 days. Normally that figure's somewhere between 650 and 750, but as I said, it was down a bit. In terms of our vacancy rate, we're still bang on that 1% mark in terms of our vacancy rate in Perth, just over 2,800 listings. This time 12 months ago, it was 3,963 properties available for rent in Perth. So we're down around about 29% in terms of stock, in rental stock, from where we were at 12 months ago. So again, it's not overly surprising. Yeah, it's not surprising, but we always knew that we were heading into a rental crisis from the middle of last year onwards, so it's not new news. The only other thing that I'd say is that there is a little bit of a softening of the rental market in Geraldton. You recall a few weeks ago we got down to just over 40 properties available in Geraldton. That number as it stands today is 60 properties available in Geraldton. So it's a bigger number from where we were at 6 weeks ago, but overall, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big number. Geraldton is far from oversupplied in terms of rentals, but it certainly is an increase from where we were at about 5 or 6 weeks ago. So that's basically my stats wrap for the last 7 days. We can talk. I think we'll talk about later maybe interest rates, and we'll talk about the stamp duty thing. But so far as our Perth stats are concerned, that is my report.
Hey, just quickly with regard to that, what the lockdown? Was that? I know you've given us some stats, but what's the general observation with regard to how that impacted? What have you observed?
Nothing.
Discussed with the boys. No.
Yeah, look, in the sales market, I mean, it basically gave the real estate agents, they couldn't go around showing homes and doing their usual home opens. The thing is that lockdown was practically all during the week, and it didn't really involve the weekend. So most of the home opens and everything are normally weekend stuff. It basically gave the real estate agents a lot more time on the phone during the week. And as proven with the number of sales, it didn't really dent them at all. Certainly from a rental point of view, there's a lot more rental viewings over the course of the week. And with the lockdown, we weren't able to show anywhere near as many rental homes, and it did actually take a hit in terms of the number of properties leased. So no real surprises, except to say that our Perth sales market is still really, really probably resilient is the best word to describe it.
Hey, Chad, with regard to lockdown and COVID, over the last 12 months, I mean, we've spoken a lot, Oscar and I, we started off this show some 59 episodes ago, and obviously it was more by good luck than good management that we did it when we did it. But when it comes to the rural sector, what's your observation? What's been the go there? We hear a lot about obviously residential. We hear all about the rental market, etc. What about the rural? And we're not just talking about farms. We're talking about hobby farms. We're talking about a range of things. What's the observation? Because from your angle, where's that been?
Yeah, definitely. So the sales market for Northampton residential side of it just went gangbusters after COVID. People wanted to get out of Perth and move to a country town and stuff. So we got a lot more inquiry there. As far as small hobby blocks went, yeah, we did. There was a lot of people that I think they realised during lockdown what they actually owned. They owned a house with an 800 square metre block, and that wasn't enough for them when they were confined to it. So we did get a lot of inquiry of people looking to find something on the fringe of say, a Geraldton or a Northampton and stuff like that. So, yeah, the inquiry was really good after that, and it's continued on now. Northampton itself, we had a lot of vacant blocks, and when someone would ring you and say, can you do an appraisal on a vacant block for me, you'd almost cringe and say, look, I just don't know who I'm going to sell it to. But if you look through the town at the moment, I think, there's a heap of under offers going up and the inquiry's still there. So it's great. The thing that we did hit, though, was with hobby blocks, a lot of people don't realise that the equity or the deposit that you need to go into some of these areas with the banks, they're a 40% deposit or a 40% equity or whatever it is, So a lot of guys come out and say, I'm going to buy a little block, 20 acres or something, and then they realise that they have to stump up with 40%, and it really blows a lot of people away. So it's probably just an awareness that isn't there when they come into the rural sector. So.
Yeah, and mate, that's a really, really good point that you raise, because I think the fact is that people go, have this great dream and this great ideal, but not being aware, as you say, of the implications. It's not quite that simple, particularly as far as the lending process is concerned. And of course, Oscar, you would know, and you'd be able to confirm this with your licensed valuer background, but there are some communities, smaller communities, it's not just rural hobby blocks, but there's some smaller communities, because of the resale ability to buy a property in some of those areas, again, you need a 40% deposit, sometimes more.
Yeah. So the way that the bank works out what they're doing lending wise, it all relates to risk, as you know, TV. So if they look at metropolitan areas or city-based areas and they see them as lower risk, there's always going to be a certain level of demand for housing. So therefore, they're happy to accept a 20% deposit, and sometimes they'll go down to 10% deposits. But as you move further away from the coast and as you move further away from the actual city centres of towns, and you move into rural areas or regional or farming properties, they see those as a greater level of risk. And come the time, they have to look at their own lending position, and if and when they had to recover, their debt exposure, excuse me, they have to work out what sort of a debt position or risk position are they prepared to take. So hence they basically say, look, we're not going to lend as much, which, as Chad said, that means that the buyer has to front up with more cash.
Yep. And is that okay? Where Chad's operating in the Midwest region, but we've got areas down there like Augustus and places of that nature that I know from past experience that has been similar with regard to even buying property. Are you aware if that's still an issue in some of those localities as far as a higher percentage of deposit required? OD?
Oh, am I aware? Oh, sorry, I thought you were asking Chatty that question.
No, I'm just saying, yeah.
Look, I wouldn't have thought that anything's changed there, and that is no matter what, if it's further away from these town centres, and it's just got less of a target market or less of a likely buyer's market in the event that the property needs to be sold, that basically increases the bank's lending position or their risk profile. So therefore, they're just not prepared to lend as much money as what they would for a city centre property, which means the only other place for that money to come from is from the buyer of the property. So I think Chad's out there, selling those sorts of properties day in, day out. I think, the whole 10 or 20% for those sorts of properties just doesn't work. It's got to be, 40, sometimes 50%.
Hey, Chad, so with the rural market and with what you've been going, I mean, obviously, as you have pointed out, it's been one hell of a year for you. And I'm sure, like most people in real estate, but with the farming properties, what is generating that enthusiasm? What are you observing? It's been a pretty busy time, yeah?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like our commodity prices are great. And you look at the canola price, even, I don't know what it was today, but I think we were sitting at $830 or something for canola a ton. So, I mean, that's off the charts. Your wheat price has been up. Your cattle and sheep prices are huge, and your interest rate, money's for free, essentially. So you've got guys they're having a good season. They've got spare cash in the pocket, and farmers are always looking to expand, whether it be for future succession or economies of scale, or whatever it may be, or just because the opportunity arises. But there's a pretty pretty ravenous sort of market out there at the moment where guys just want to get bigger. Like I've got clients that are two boys, and it goes in cycles. You know, you get two brothers, they farm together, they bust up, they have kids, and then those two kids farm, and then they need more land because they split it again. So, you know, succession's a big thing in it, but I mean, the guts of it is money's for free, and commodities are good. So they're just trying to chase the bigger parcel. They can handle it with the machinery that they've got these days. So they don't need the extra workers. You know, you've got GPS, your fatigue's down, you can cover more ground with the bigger machinery. So it just makes sense that if you're farming and you're finishing early, then I guess you can put a little bit more on your plate and go again. So that's what they do.
Mate, the farmers, I don't know whether they'd be all that happy at the moment. If you can, I don't know whether you can hear through my microphone, but it is absolutely bucketing down right now here. I'm in Vic Park, and it is teeming down, absolutely teeming down. So, getting back to your point about the commodities, that's a big influence, isn't it, with regard to the buying? And of course, is it a matter of farms getting bigger, or is there still room for the little man who's buying a farm to do what he wants to do and happy with what he's doing?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like there's guys that are still doing it and doing it well. You know, you don't need to be big to be successful at the moment. That's not by any means. But a farmer, you know, he works from when the sun comes up to when the sun goes down. And if he finds out that he's finishing at 4 o'clock, then he goes looking for more land to put in, you know, and whether that be lease or purchase. So there's definitely still room for those little guys. And I mean, the little guys are becoming the bigger guys, and that's what happens, you know. Like they sort of start off with a little bit, and they work up, you know. It's like someone buying a house and then wanting a 4-bedroom house, and then the house with the pool. It's just natural progression that they want more and more, and they find themselves in a position to have more and more through either the equity or the commodity or, you know, just the way it is, the climate they're in. So, no, definitely room for the little guys, and there's plenty of little guys expanding. So,
and mate, Oscar was talking about doing his stats, and we do OD stats the start of every show. When it comes to the farming properties and the rural market, where are they at with listings? Is that the same as the residential market? I mean, what I've been reading, it's pretty much the same, that people are screaming for listings, screaming for property because there's buyers out there. Is that what you're observing with regard to the marketplace in your field?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I hope you can hear me because you broke up there, but definitely it is because you know, everything that I had on the books as far as broadacre this year is pretty much off my book now. It was taken up as far as you know, like they were late in the season. We're sort of almost April, and we're still doing sales on farm and property because guys were keen for it. As far as prices and that go, like that's why it's pretty hard at the moment. The market is moving that fast in front of you. It's sort of moved up 30% on properties, you know, within the last 8 months. I did an appraisal on a block, and I put on a farming property and put 1.2 on it, and it sold for 1.6. We've got country that I would have said was $1,600 an acre arable last year. That sort of country these days would be $2,500 an acre starting. So it's just ravenous. Like they're chasing country.
Yeah. And so
it's unbelievable.
Oh, and it is. I mean, obviously we see it as a settlement agent, and you and I have worked together with assisting farmers with their contracts and things of that nature, and it's been quite staggering. And of course, you know, we talk about stamp duty, but you've got to consider too with farming properties when you're buying a property. We're not talking about a $300,000 or $400,000 property. We're talking about the millions in most cases, especially when you're talking about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 an acre. Then all of a sudden, the stamp duty implications for a farming property. There's no concessions. It is what it is. So it's a big impost on when you're buying a farming property. It's not just the fact of buying a property, but it's you don't have to be Einstein to work out the large amount of stamp duty that's involved in that. And you hear, we talked about it last week. I think it was last week. Chatty, where stamp duty, I think the New South Wales government were something like $9 billion or something. Now, when you work out selling farming properties, the amount of money involved in stamp duty, it doesn't take long to get into the billions. So it's a really interesting. It's certainly while we're doing what we're doing, it's certainly handy for the state government coffers when it comes to the property market. OD, have you got some questions that you want to ask Chatty with regard to the farming side?
Yeah, probably just a couple of things. The first thing that I was just going back to your lending ratios, TV, that you were talking about earlier. On one hand, it's great that there's so much demand for these farming properties, and there must be really, really good sentiment out there amongst the farmers that they're just looking for more quality country. So that's really good. I do remember about 10 or 11 years ago, though, when I was doing some farm valuations, from Geraldton and further south, all the way down probably to Mora, through that sort of area. And I can't remember specifically, Chatty would know whether that was actually drought time around about 2009, 2010, maybe 2011. But there was a lot of hurt. There was a lot of pain going on. And then just going back to these lending ratios, right now, banks might be prepared to lend farmers who are doing really, really well. They might be prepared to lend them 50%. But just like anything volatile, when it can go up as quickly as what Chatty just said that it is, it does have the potential to backpedal the other way as well. And hence, that's why the banks are always looking to make sure that they protect their position.
Yep. The other thing that I was going to check with regard to you're also involved in livestock. So how does that combine with your real estate side of things? How does that work?
Yeah, so livestock, I started livestock in 2009 and was asked into it by Craig Walker. We started for primaries, which was a small company, originally a wool broking company. And so livestock was really good. We had an area I used to go as far as Headland, Newman, Prindery, Warradaji. So anywhere in that whole, Craig and I could pick where we wanted to go. We were doing 10,000 Ks each a month, just on the road, trying to crack a client base. And in doing so, it was huge. But in doing so, we met so many people, and it got to a point where, it's a cycle. Farming's a cycle where someone's got no kids, they get out, or the kids don't want to take it on, or for whatever reason they sell. So I was driving up people's driveways, and we're sitting down and we're having the conversation around, what are we going to do for rams this year, or how many bulls do we think we're going to put in? And the conversation would just end up saying, look, Chad, at the end of this year, we're out. We're going to pull the plug and we're going to sell the farm. And I'd shake the hand. Thank you very much for, allowing me to do your work, and walk away. And that's when Mum pulled me aside and said, look, mate, you're mad. You've got the rapport, their farming practice. You can answer the questions on their farm. Why not go and get your ticket and start selling for these guys? And that's where it actually started. So it does make it hard that a lot of my clients, either buying or selling, are also a livestock client, are also in the community. So there's a bit of pressure to not so much do the right thing, because you always try to do the right thing, but when it comes to a tender situation or something, and you get 3 of your clients or your mates or whatever, there's that, there's just that pressure to make sure overly that it is a fair deal. And someone in a tender system is always going to walk away feeling cheated. And so that's the hardest part of the livestock real estate side of it. Is really good for the client base, the relationship, the rapport. But on the flip side of it, you get the downer times where you just feel like, you've disappointed your mate almost. So it works in really well, and it's been great. So.
Yeah, there's that emotional attachment, isn't there? That's
TV,
what it
that?
really is. It's the emotional attachment. The emotion. The emotional attachment.
It's almost
down on real estate.
Yeah, it's almost forcibly mixing the business and the pleasure side, because you guys are all in the same community, so there's friendships there.
Yeah, and you don't want to let your real estate client down, but then you don't want to let your livestock client down, because you have you could lose both of them in the end of it. So there's a real fine line of just it's a black and white line, and you walk along it, and you can't fall off either side, because it picks you up pretty quick.
Yeah. with regard to the farming side, there was a trend at one stage where there was hobby farms, and there was people from the city buying hobby farms. It was becoming a bit, well, for want of a better term, trendy. Is that still, is there still enthusiasm there? Is that still a market? Have you got me, Chatty?
Missed the last bit of that TV. Sorry.
Is hobby
Yeah, I've got
farms?
you now. Is it still a trend?
Yeah, they still a trend. Yeah.
Not so much. I mean, there's plenty of guys in Geraldton that want to buy acreage outside of Geraldton to get away and take the kids. And I would say that's post-COVID. They want to get out on the weekends, out onto a piece of dirt and have their kids riding a motorbike and having a fire and that type of thing. There's not a lot out there for them, though. And like we say, that deposit sort of kicks that in the bum a bit. But no, I don't think there's as many of those purchases out there where it is just a trendy hobby block to go to. I think people are a little bit smarter with their money now, and they're investing it elsewhere, like with the rental market and that. I think if they've got the money to go buy a hobby block, most of them are smart enough to go and buy a second investment property and rent it out. Like that's what I think anyway.
Yeah. No. It's just an interesting point with regard to that, and obviously the other big factor with which is part of our title tonight is that the seasons can impact the property market, but the seasons. And obviously, from all reports, we're heading towards an absolute bumper here in WA this year, and it's not.
Yep.
It's probably. I mean, this wouldn't be considered your busy time, would it? I mean, the guys are all busy seeding and doing well. They've done their seeding, so now it's a case of maintaining their crops. But so this is not necessarily the time that you're going to be busy with people knocking on the door wanting to buy a farm, is it?
No, I think you've stopped. So, yeah, no, at the moment, they're all on the tractors and they're doing their thing. And generally, if guys are looking to sell at the end of the year or they have that inkling, guys will want to sell on a good year. That's just a given. They want to present their property as best as it looks and get maximum dollar for it. And they want to go out on a high. They want to take the biggest crop off and walk away. So this year, what guys will do is if they're looking like they think they're going to sell, they'll start telling us now. They would have spoken to us, like around the opening range and that, and said, look, if it's a good year, we're going to pull the pin this year, and that's where we get busy at this time of the year. The best thing for us is to drive around and take pictures of crops because if you can get those $1 million shots of crops, canola crops, bumper wheat fields and stuff like that, now's the time to be doing it. And then you probably don't really start marketing those until you know that you've got the stuff finished. So late September, you'll look at it and you'll probably go pretty hard. September, October, you'll try and get a deal done so that guys then have got the opportunity to store their seeds. So they know that they've bought an extra 4,000 acres and they're going to crop it next year. Instead of selling all that seed, they'll harvest and they'll have enough seed to do their next program. They'll do their fertilizer orders. Then they'll settle in January, February. So, yeah, at the moment we're driving around looking at crops, sort of working out, who we think are at that age or who's spoken about it previously, and then you get out there and you just take photos on the hope that they're going to give you a yell.
Yep. The other thing that we're going to make mention and refer to you, other than the property, but we will refer the cyclone. We always try to make a reference to that and keep people aware, because one of the things that OD and I can't do a lot, but I think we're really conscious of making people aware that of what's going on, and it's not just all over. And so there are people, and you're one just that alone, where oh my God, see that bright light that come on board then, OD? The bright light just came on board.
Yeah, I think the moon just poked out from behind the clouds.
We're getting hot in here. I was getting bloody steamy.
But mate, you've experienced this cyclone firsthand, and you can tell us. I wouldn't mind getting and I'm going to post a couple of photos just to show. So this here I'm posting now, that's actually Chatty's house. And that's a photo that he sent through, so you can see the damage. And this other photo that I'm going to show you, this is not a rental disaster at one of Oscar's landlord's properties. This is actually Chad's house, where he currently doesn't live because they're waiting for that to be repaired. But that gives you an insight of what some people, and I'm sure there's worse than this, but this is just gives you an insight of this is the sort of stuff, this is real, this is what happened, and this is the result of the cyclone, and that's just a small part of what happened. And some people are worse than that, but we just thought we'd give you the opportunity to show people what that's all about. Chad, tell us what that experience was like, mate, because I've been through a cyclone, more than one, in my time when I was up north, but I've never experienced what those photos show me. You've got two little boys. You've got a lovely wife, Amy. Tell me what that experience was, or tell us.
So the last picture was the good old workbench that's probably going to get thrown out now. So I don't think that'll get any more use. But so we spent the night, for a couple of hours anyway, in the hallway under a mattress. We knew it was going to get real. Everyone said to us, prepare like you're going to get smashed. So we did. We spent 4 days cleaning up prior to, put everything away, and we sort of thought, like, we're going to be safe in the house. We might lose a few other buildings, but the house is rock solid. So anyway, it always happens. It was night time. The power went out, and then the wind started, and it sounded like a jet sitting over the house, and someone pulling the can opener. So it started ripping tin and carrying on, and it was pretty freaky. Like, the kids got into the hallway with Amy, and we chucked a mattress over them, and I spent a couple of hours walking around, taking all our photos and stuff off the wall because the water was coming down our walls, and shifting computers and trying to salvage as much as I could into the dry rooms. Next morning was just chaos. I guess we did end up sleeping. I think we had about 4 hours sleep, by the time we put up with the banging tin and stuff, and all slept in one room. Got up in the morning and walked out, and it was just you just don't know where to start. We actually had some guys, because we run the farm stay, we kicked everyone out, but there were some guys that got stuck here, and we put them in our big entertaining shed. We let the wheels down on the tyres down on their caravan and backed them in under one of the roller doors. And they came out the next morning and sort of thought they'd done it hard in there, and then they saw the house and just couldn't believe it. And he pretty much was ready to go to work straight away. And I said to him, mate, you just got to bugger off for 2 hours and let me process this. And when I look like I know what I'm doing, come back and see me. So, but we had plenty of people come and help. We cleaned it up in about 4 days. I think it probably took us to really break the back of it and get everything packed away and everything cleaned up. And we're just soldiering on now. We were lucky enough that we had a farmstay cottage that we usually rent out or book out by nights. So we went down there, and it had lost 3 sheets of tin. We started the generator off. We isolated the house, and we moved into there, and we're probably looking like being in there for another 12 months, I reckon, the way it's going. So it's just a 2-room cottage. And Oscar was saying that he hasn't got the family around him. I've got the family right on top of me, so you can have them if you want.
It's a really, really good point, because I spoke to my sister earlier, and I was having a bit of a whinge to her, and first thing she said, oh, you got the house to yourself, are you loving it? And every other time I've ever had the house to myself, my answer is, oh, this is great, this is bliss. This is the first time ever where I've actually told a different story, where I'm actually a bit sad that my family aren't around. But mate, other than that, every other time I'd be you.
Yep. No, it's good. Like, we're pretty lucky.
Yeah. And mate, that house that we're showing, that's a seriously, that's not just a shack. So, it just shows you the impact of that cyclone. And as you say, there's been no shortage of photos over the journey, but it's really important to, there's that photo there. Where's that property now? Where does that look pretty much the same today, 10 weeks, 12 weeks later?
Of our house. So we got up, and I took as much off as I could, like all the loose stuff, and the SES showed up, and and they just helped us pretty much. They said, we can't tarp your roof, mate. It's too big a job. What else can we do? So we pretty much just got them to help carry as much out of the house as we could and put into the shed that you can see behind the pool. That's our entertaining shed, or our weddings, functions and that. So we put everything in there that we could, and then we had the Make Safe guys turn up from the insurance company, and we had a CBH tarp. So we've dragged a tarp over it. We found as much tin as we could that was flat, and put that back on the roof, and cleaned it all up. So I mean, the biggest thing, you can rebuild a roof, you can put more tin on, fix the bricks and all that sort of thing. But probably the biggest kick for us was seeing the trees. Like there's trees there that are 50 to 100 years old, sort of big gum trees they're gone. Like they were huge, and now they're just a stump in the ground, and they have started to regrow. Like they've got shoots on them regrowing. But that's something that I'll probably never see in my lifetime again, is those trees standing over the top of our camp kitchen or our house, or, so they're the things that kick you in the guts probably.
Yeah. And the rest of the community, Chad, I mean, we talk about Kalbarri, and it's been and as we say, I've got no shortage of friends and clients and whatever in the Kalbarri region, but the other communities besides Northampton itself, I mean, there's people still doing it hard, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, there's guys that have they've fitted out their shed, their workshop or something, and they've fitted it out with stud walls and a bathroom, and they're living in that probably for the next 12 months or 18 months, depending. I mean, the biggest thing is we've had the dialogue with the assessors, with the engineers, with the loss adjusters. We still haven't seen any sort of payout or write-offs or, quotes to start rebuilding. So I think that's when it's going to hit you, is when you actually get your payout and you go, or they say this is what we're doing, and you go to get a builder to do it. That's when people are going to go, look, we're still 12 months away. So there's going to be guys living in caravans. There's going to be guys living in sheds, probably for another 12 to 18 months, and that's the reality of it. It sucks, and it's it's worse in winter, and it's going to be awful in summer. But I think people are dealing with it. The farmers probably, because it was such a great start to the season, they just shut their eyes and went and jumped on a tractor, and they've just gone, how good's this? Like, we've got a cracking start. They went nuts, put their crops in, and then I think it hit them when they got off the tractor. Like they'd finished their main job and they got off, and they just looked around and thought, holy moly, like this is what we've got in front of us for the next couple of months. So it's an ongoing thing, and it pops up. We thought our kids were doing really well. The oldest boy, he's 9, 10. No, he's 11. Sorry, he's 11. But he was sitting in the hallway reading his Kindle with his little dog. So he was no dramas. And then my littlest fella, he's 8. He thought he was going to die. He was full on thinking that that's it, I'm going to die. So we thought, okay, so we'll keep an eye on him. He'll be okay. The oldest fella, we thought he'd ridden it through, and then like 3 weeks ago, we got a call from the teacher saying, he's not the same. Like, he's such an outgoing kid, and he's always happy, and that, he's really starting to struggle. So we thought, we were through it and everything, but it's almost like a mini PTSD or something popping up. And I guess because we've been so busy trying to get the insurance companies, trying to get everything happening, we've sort of just glazed over and haven't seen it. So it'll be coming through probably.
And mate, that's something I also reckon, and you and I have discussed this when we have our little chats on occasions, but Oscar and I have certainly talked about it as well. I mean, I think the next bit about all this is the fact that mental health is an issue, and all of a sudden, as you say, when it suddenly the harvest is finished, and all of a sudden everything, and some of these things hit people, maybe it influences some people to say, you know what, I'm over this. This is where I'm had a good season. My farm is a good marketplace. I'm going to sell my farm. I think there's those scenarios as well. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Definitely. It's a life changing thing. It's life altering. Like, it hits everyone in different ways, and it gives you a different outlook on life. And I've definitely got guys that will, like, I think by the end of the year, they're saying to me now, they're going through their insurance and they're looking around, and the insurance is saying, okay, well, look, you need to rebuild the shearing shed. And these guys are sort of 60s type thing, maybe no kids coming home, and they're going, like, do we really want to spend $350,000 to build a shearing shed that we're going to use for another 4 years, it's probably not going to add value to the farm because, like it's a broadacre cropping area. We just love sheep. That's the only reason we've got them. So they're looking at it like that and going, do we rebuild or do we just take the money and put it into something else that we, that will add value to the farm or that we can, use for the next couple of years. So I think realistically by the end of this year, I'll have some guys that will ring me and say, look, Chad, we want to continue on with our stock, but as far as cropping goes, we want to lease out our cropping portion. We just want to go on holidays. We want to enjoy it. They've seen the light and said, let's just go do it. So, I mean, on that, I can give you an example of one. I had some guys, I was going to market their property at the end of the year, like we thought we'll get some good photos this year. They were on the cards to sell it. They lost their shearing shed and they lost their house in the cyclone. And then they actually rang me up and said, can you come and sit down at the table? We need to have a talk. So we went down to the table at the shed and had a makeshift coffee. And they just said, look, if we build a house and we build a shearing shed on this place, are we going to add value to the property? And it wasn't a huge property. And I said, off the current market, not a chance, And so pretty much what they did right there and then was they made the decision that they were going to sell. They were going to give early possession to whoever bought the property, not charge them for a lease. So that was factored into, it became a tender. That was factored into the price that you offered. So these guys that have bought the property, settlement next February, are actually cropping it this year. The guys that are selling it have moved into town because they've found a house in town. They're still running their sheep on the property. But that was the one that I was telling you about. 1.2 we did an appraisal for, 1.6 we sold it for. So, they've taken the money out of the insurance as well on top of it. So it's worked out well for them. Not ideal timing or situation, but that's the reality of it. Is if you're not going to add value to your property, then why rebuild it? Like put it into something else.
Yeah. And it's you and I think we had a mutual client, in fact, where we did a settlement, and of course it was a huge issue, and obviously I went up to Jordan to help out and assist with because there was a lot of complex issues, and we had one client where lost the homestead, waiting on insurance, and of course that impacts on the settlement. It impacts on the buyers who are hoping to get possession so they can start seeding, and so it goes on. So, and similar situation, $100,000+ worth of shed just being cleanly wiped to the ground, and of course the owners turn around waiting on the insurers, and of course saying, well, if we've got to rebuild this ourselves, we're probably not going to get the $100,000 that's going to cost to replace it. Is it in our interest to rebuild the shed? Do we just make an arrangement with the buyers and we simply sell as is and away we go? And in some cases that's what we negotiated, and so what you're saying there, Chad, is exactly, we experienced that firsthand with a number of contracts, and there are still farmers out there, as I've said on a number of occasions, who are relying on generators for power. So people out there, if you can help in any way, in some way, shape or form, have a look at the different communities and see there's normally fundraising pages and different things. But you need to understand that you might be having a tough winter in the metro area in a nice warm house. But trust me, there's a lot of people out there that are doing it very, very more difficult. And some living in little cottages, aren't they, Chad?
Oh, yeah. Nice and comfy.
I'll quickly go to we'll go to our question section, and then I'll get back to Chad because I also want to speak about his homestay that they do. But I had this question, Oscar. Came through. Hi TV, we are first home buyers, and we've noted a property we really for sale that we're really interested in. However, there's not a sale price on the advertisement. How do we work out a price, and can you give advice? Because what we should do. It's got a set, and it also wants to know it's identified as a set date sale. What does that mean? Because we've contacted the agent and they have advised, I wrote this note down, the agent has advised the real estate agent has forwarded to the buyer, to contact the agent for buyer feedback. Sorry, I've just wrote down quickly because someone rang me about this afternoon. Yep.
So, firstly, you need to brush up on your reading skills, TV.
my
Secondly,
writing, my shorthand.
the set date sale with no price, I do know it frustrates lots of buyers. There is a purpose to it, and basically what the seller and the seller's agent basically are trying to do, they're obviously trying to get the best outcome or the maximum price for it. So they don't want to put a price on it, especially in the market that we've got now, and actually do themselves out of some money because they put a price on it that's a little bit too low, and then you've got people that are just offering the asking price. So that said, we do know, even with asking prices at the moment, if there's a lot of competition for a property, just like the properties that Chatty was talking about, people are going to offer what they're going to offer anyway. So they might look at a price of 1.2 mil for a place, but if there's a lot of demand for it, and they've got a lot of money available and they want the property bad enough, they'll pay more, and sometimes a hell of a lot more, like Chatty said. So the set date sales thing, the whole concept of that basically is it's almost like an auction. The idea being is there's a set date and a time that all offers will be presented to the seller, and we're looking to have an outcome, on that particular date and time. So it's a little bit similar to an auction condition in terms of it being a finite time that the property should sell. That said, there's actually no legal requirement that the seller has to accept any of the offers or sell the property. So, look, if you have got a set date sale and there's no price, and I do know it frustrates lots of people, there's a few things you can do. One is just talk to the agent and get them to give you some sort of a price guide. What are the other buyers saying? What are the sellers looking for? So, number one, open up the dialogue with the agent. Number two, have a look at other properties that are either for sale or that have recently sold that have comparable features or attributes to your property. And a third thing you can do, you can actually get some completely independent advice from either a buyer's agent or a licensed valuer.
Keep going.
Geez, did I swear? Did I say something wrong?
No, I just remembered. Keep going.
Did Chatty take his beanie off again? What was that?
Keep going.
So there are a few other things you could do, but the first thing that I definitely do is start with the real estate agent, let them know that you're interested in the property, and try and get some sort of a guide from them as to where's the value likely to be, what sort of a range.
I had a cry of despair because when you said independent advice, the general advice disclaimer, which we, of course, we don't forget tomorrow you'll be able to, if you didn't get an opportunity to, not everybody wants to look at our faces. And so tomorrow our podcast will be uploaded to all your podcast platforms. You'll be able to access the audio of the podcast. But I will make mention of the general advice disclaimer that the information on this podcast / live stream is to be regarded as general advice. Your personal objectives, needs, and financial circumstances were not taken into account when preparing this content. And I can't believe it.
You never get that right.
Oh, I've done it. I got it two in a row. We always advise and recommend you seek personal, professional, and financial advice tailored to your specific individual needs before making financial, property, and investment decisions. And as we all say, and we make mention of it all the time, and again, as recently as today, I had some clients that were talking to me about a range of things, and they were specific areas that I'm not qualified in. And so the first thing that I advise, and which is our policy, is to instruct the client, look, you need to go and get independent professional advice or refer to your accountant, and get that advice associated with taxation or accounting or whatever the case may be. And the same goes, I'm getting no shortage. My whiteboard in front of me has just got name after name, and I'm not exaggerating, where people are contacting me and asking for my advice and seeking assistance and direction. And then in some cases I can answer the questions. In some other cases I'm saying, no, I've got a mate. His name's Oscar D'Souza. He specialises in that field, and away we go. And similar, I had a situation yesterday with Chad, and the same thing, sort of saying, okay, yep, I've got a mate in that field. Trust him. He's professional. I'll get hold of him and we'll get something. And that's really, really important with regard to if you're doing something, just don't go off a discussion at the barbecue with someone who happened to buy a house once in their life. Make sure you get that independent advice and get to speak to someone who knows what they're talking about. Really, really important. So there you go. I've done the disclaimer. I mucked it up again, but that's okay. The other question that was asked to me, not so much a question, but the comment was, "Hey TV, can you when you do your podcast, can you perhaps chat about online auctions, as I have been advised that is the way I should go with the sale of my investment property?" Now, it just so happens that Chad made mention when he and I were talking a couple of days ago about online auctioning for farming properties. And online auctioning is a bit like as what a Killer had. It's open negotiation. Is that pretty much the same thing? So who wants to go first? Do you want to go? Do you want to quickly run through that, Oscar?
No. Hand it over to Chad.
Okay, Chaddy. Online auctioning. What's your experience with it? How's it go with the property market and the rural market?
Yep, same as anything. So if you've got a property that's got a lot of interest on it, an auction is the way to go. During COVID, I was asked to do a shy non-payment of rates, and they have to be an auction. They have to be a public auction. And we looked at doing an online auction. There was a couple of platforms that were okay. Open negotiation was the one that I sort of did my training on and took it up. Worked great for the Shire auction, and then we took it up again for the property that I just spoke about before. It was one of the Cyclone ones that we did TV, and that sold great guns. And probably the best thing about it, when you've got so much interest in a property, especially like now, it's pretty hard to put a price on it. We can be a couple of $100 an acre off on price at the moment, so you would be mad not to go to an auction. The online auction is probably even a little bit better, I believe, because it gives everyone the opportunity to bid from the safety of their own home. There's no outside influence. You don't get the people looking, from the back of the room and saying you're mad. You get your identity. It's confidential. It's not disclosed who you are. So the corporates will bid like that. The corporates won't go to a normal public auction because they don't want to show their face. They will bid online because they can do it from their boardroom, and it's live bidding. It's just, it seems to be a great way of doing it. I found you still get that bidding flurry. I had a guy just every time someone else bid, he just kept pressing the button. So you still got the flurry at the end of it. And I found it. Farmers liked it. Initially, I thought, the farmers won't like it, but they're pretty savvy on computers now. They Google, they're on Facebook, they're on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that. They follow each other. They embraced it. And what I found was that we sold a property for the Shire, the initial little block that we did. We sold that during harvest at 4:00 in the afternoon. Two guys got off their header, went home, sat down at the table. Half an hour, they did the final bidding stage. Went back, jumped on the header, one won it, one lost it, and he was happy because, he went as far as he wanted to and then he pulled out. They went and jumped back on the header and it had cost them, 45 minutes of their day, whereas a public auction, you drive down to Geraldton or you drive to the farm or you do something and, you've wasted pretty much a half a day or a day. So they loved it. And the tender process, that's the other way of doing it. You either do multiple offers or a tender process, and farmers just hate a tender process because everyone can do their due diligence. You get your farm advisor, you get your agronomist, you get your accountant, you get your bank manager, you get the missus. They all put their little say in, and then you spend a week doing your due diligence, and you put a price in, and it's pretty much like throwing a dart with a blindfold on because you don't know where you're going. And, you find out that you missed by $50 an acre, whereas this way, they actually just keep bidding until they don't want to buy it anymore. And that's what I say to them. Like, you've got the opportunity to buy it. You tell me when you don't want to buy it. So, it's a great system.
Yep. Yeah. And so do you as the real estate agent, where are you controlling that, or is that just on the system and someone pushes the button when it finishes? How does it work?
Yep. So as the agent, you do the initial marketing and all the stuff. You do the contract and you actually put the contract online so that when they view the property, they see the contract that they will actually be signing as their finished contract. What they do then is, if they're interested in the property, they register the bid. They put their bid in. I ring them up and say, look, you've missed a few details here, your full names, your trading, what's your deposit, who you're using for settlement, all the rest of it. Once that's done, they docu-sign it. Like there's a live contract is generated on the system. It's sent to them. It's docu-signed. From there, it's sent directly to the seller. If he agrees to those terms, it's signed. So you've got a buyer and a seller's signature on it. The only thing missing is the auctioneer. So you've got an auctioneer overwatching the whole system. So for us, we use our licensee, Glenn McTaggart. Open will provide you with an auctioneer if you don't have one. So the final part of it is once they're both signed and you're happy that you've got a signed copy, that's docu-signed in it, you file that, and then we as the agent actually approve the bid on the system. So we just press the button saying approved bid. Once that's on there, they can continue to bid as much as they like. We can remove their bid. If they stuff up, we can, remove the last bid for them and stuff like that. But they can continue to bid. And then what happens is on the day of the sale, say it's, the 12th of August at 3 p.m., that's the final bidding stage. And it enters into that for 10 minutes or 15 minutes maybe. So initially it counts down 10 or 15 minutes and people just bid flat out if they want to. Then it goes down to 2 minutes. So once 2 minutes starts, the clock starts. And if someone bids in that time, then the clock will reset itself to 2 minutes. And it just keeps doing that. If someone bids, it resets. So in this period of the final bidding stage, the agent has got control, or the agent and auctioneer. Usually we're sitting there with the sellers, but you can predetermine, like when the bidding slows down at a normal auction, you'll say, I'll let you in for a half, I'll take your bid at 5 instead of 10. So you can actually do that. If the bidding slows down, you can reduce the bidding increment as the agent, and then you can keep doing that, or you can auto-generate it. So prior to the final bidding stage, you can say, I want it to go from 10 to 5 to 2 grand bids. And then once that's finished, it times out. If it's, once it meets reserve, the whole screen lights up, bang, bang, the property's on the market. So everyone knows. So that's where it's pretty important to set your reserve at a realistic level, so people know it's on the market, and then they get that bidding flurry, like we're live, we're away.
Yep.
I was going to say the other side of it is if you only get one bid on it and no one else bids, and it's a bid that the seller wants to take, they can accept that bid as long as there is no other bid in the system.
Yep. Mate, I just looked at the time. We always try. We always seem to exceed it, but it's been absolutely fantastic. I want to quickly check with you. You've got a farm homestay business which is still operating, hasn't been impacted by COVID at all too much. Northbrook Farmstay, is that right? Northbrook Farmstay, is that right?
Yeah, Northbrook Farmstay, 6 kilometres north of Northampton.
Yep. And so your wife Amy and you do that for when you've got nothing else to do, is that right?
Oh, that's your spare time, yeah. Just
so school holidays. I had a look at your Facebook page, your Northbrook Homestay Farmstay home Facebook page. There's lots of really compliments and whatever. You've got to get more people to put some posts on there, mate. I think it's fantastic what you do.
Oh, we have. We've been shut down. We've only been open 4 nights, I think. So yeah, we copped a belting from it. We lost a bit of infrastructure. We've tried to do some improvements in that downtime. We are up and running again. We did. Good. We used to do backpacker buses out of Perth 3 nights a week, but COVID, they stopped in COVID and haven't returned. So yeah, we've got plenty of room for people if they want to come.
But you're still getting, and those since you've been open, you're getting a good influx of people.
Yep. So we had 10 vans and 2 rooms in last night. Tonight, I think there's only one camper on the lawn, but that's normal. It does slow down midweek. Come Friday, Saturday night again, it ramps up. So the first night of the school holidays, I think we were due to have 50 people in. And then obviously COVID hit. So a lot of those guys, that was Friday night. Nobody came Friday night. They actually, I think most of them that were booked in waited until the COVID curfew had hit at midnight, and then they jumped in the cars. As soon as it was lifted, they jumped in the cars and belted straight to Exmouth. So they just bypassed us on the Friday night. So it has an impact, but on the other side we get domestic travellers because of COVID, so it's good.
Yeah. Right, we're going to wind up, boys, and we'll definitely get you on again, Chad. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. We've really enjoyed having you on, and as I said, I've been looking forward to this for a while. Okay, I'm going to ask you first, Chad. If you could spend your life, and there's a good reason for this question, if you could spend your life not sleeping, what do you think you would do with the extra hours of each day?
Work. seems to be. What would I do with the extra hours? Oh, I spend it with the kids, mate. Like, we lose plenty of hours to the phone and to the computer. So, yeah, it'd be definitely spending it with the kids.
Yeah. OD, if you did,
Mate, I'd have to agree with Chatty. I think I'm at this stage of my life. My two young girls are 12 and almost 10, and I'm loving the age. And if I get any extra time, that's just where I want to be. So I'm not trying to be all floral about it, but that's the truth. I'd love to just hang out with them, and of course my wife.
I must admit, I had my my eldest son and our two granddaughters over on Saturday night, and we did the old fish and chips, and yeah, that's pretty special. But I'm just wondering if I am sleeping at the moment, because I'm not convinced I am at the moment the way things are going, and that's why I thought I'd ask that question to you two blokes, because don't you feel as though you're not sleeping at the moment? It's just mad. It's crazy. Hey, listen, guys, it's just been, as I said, absolute pleasure. Chad, really, really appreciate it, mate. We wish you all the best, and obviously you and I will be in touch and keep going. But, yeah, it's been fun, and as I said, those photos tonight highlight, it's good to talk to you not only about the rural part and how things are going, but also what you experience and what many of your friends and colleagues and people in various communities around the traps who've got impacted with the cyclone. It's just fabulous to be able to get your story and to experience not only what you experience, but what your little boys experience. And I think that's we wish you really all the best, mate, and certainly give our best to Amy and the boys. And obviously I'll be in touch with you more often than not, I'm guessing. But, mate,
No worries.
It's been a pleasure. We'll quickly run the ad. Don't forget, thank you to all those that are listening, those that follow us. Tomorrow our podcast is available. And, of course, if you have got any questions, be it anything about property, be it about farms, be it about stamp duty, be it about transferring to related parties, you can access us via Twitter, you can access us via Instagram, you can access us via Facebook, or you can send an email to our respective businesses, which are published on our Property Avenue WA Facebook page. So if we can help in any way, this is what we're here for. It's the focus about WA. Thank you so much. Thanks again, Chad. Thanks, OD. And look forward to seeing you all again next week. Episode 60 next week. Can you believe it? Hang on. I better finish this.